Hey guys, welcome to the studio again. Welcome to my office. As you can see, it's very, very stressful here. Today, I want to talk to you guys all about how I first started getting into studio photography and kind of what were my very, very first steps. Right, so I got a photography degree when I was in my 20s, and after that I couldn't get a job for a little while. I ended up moving to London, which is a big thing, moved to a big city, and in 2005 I got a meeting in one of the biggest studios in London. This was purely because I had a friend of a friend that I met via networking, and the idea was I was supposed to go and show them my portfolio and have a chat with one of the photographers there who knew somebody. So when I got in there to have my meeting, the place was really, really busy. There's people running around everywhere, and they essentially didn't even look at my portfolio. They literally just said, "We need you to go make some cups of tea, coffee right now. We have clients that are just standing around like in a daze and they don't know what's going on. Just go over there and just be like a concierge and be really nice to them, and then lead them into studio and just give them whatever they need. Like if they need pastries or anything like that, go out to the shop, buy them, and then just come back and give them to them, etc." So that's what my kind of first experience of working in a studio was. Then after a little while, I remember you'd have a stressed out photographer running around, and one of them once yelled at me asking for a monkey arm, and I was like, "What the hell is a monkey arm? I don't understand." And it's like I've actually got two of them right now. It's like this thing for holding other things up in the studio. You might actually know what it is, but yeah. Anyway, it's one way of learning very, very quickly what all the gear is by having like very stressed out photographers running around shouting at you. But anyway, after a while, then I started to learn I learned all the ropes, and I learned what everything was. And I started figuring out how all the lights worked and how the camera things worked and all the bits and pieces. It's very overwhelming when you start off, but I guarantee you, if you literally start off by just making cups of tea and then you start from there, by a couple of months, it does not take very long, after a few months you will learn what absolutely everything is and how everything works, and it's really not that complicated. Anyway, after a while, there was a situation where a photographer didn't turn up for work, and they had a shoot, but they didn't have a photographer to do it. And instead of cancelling the shoot, the boss came over and said, "Are you able to do this shoot for us?" And very, very nervously, I said yes. And I'll never forget this shoot. This is my first ever commercial photography shoot. It was a small key ring that needed 2 shots for an advertising agency for some like billboard ad or something like that, and there was a creative director there, a really, really young guy, like probably about my age, and he sat with me and I talked to him, etc. It was absolutely terrifying, and it was also quite exciting. I was completely and utterly thrown in the deep end. Anyway, it worked out. The boss came over and he said he'd overheard the entire conversation, and he told me that I did quite well. He said that I had a very, very good bedside manner, which I think is really important. Then from there, I started working more and more with cameras and lights instead of kettles and cups of tea. So I started to learn all the little intricacies from this small group of very, very experienced advertising photographers, like some of them proper old school, like old guys who started off working in film. So for the first month, I don't think I even discussed pay, and just work for free. Was like, yeah, whatever, I'm learning. This all makes kind of sense to me. Now, when I compare this to nowadays, whereby recently I mentioned this all to an assistant when she asked me, and she essentially told me that she found making cups of tea and coffee was demeaning, and she'd never ever worked for free. That's just awful. I saw their point. However, it does kind of make sense why some people are finding it quite hard to get work these days. So my point in this matter, now that I've bored you with my life story, is always remember to give a little before you expect to receive. Also, don't ever pressure somebody into committing to anything, especially with photography. Photography is a creative and collaborative process. If you show people you are willing to scratch their back, in time they will often come back and ask you to scratch theirs in return when they need it most. And that is my final thought of the day. Hope you really enjoyed this. Hope you guys can get loads and loads of work out of it, and love you all, and I'll see you in the next episode.